Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Breezy, and it's been a while since we've kind of been face to face like this. Yeah, it's been a busy year for me, but if you haven't already, make sure you follow me over on Twitter, where you can find my daily who's nots and what's nots, hot takes, cold takes, whatever. I post regularly over there. There's a link down in the description, so you can follow me over there. And in the meantime, when I'm not here making videos for you guys. So, but yeah, all that to say, today I wanted to make a video about the Emperor, our beautiful, glorious Emperor here, who is no longer with us. RIP, because Arachne took him out before we could really see his story evolve. But ever since he made a release in Dynasty last year, actually almost exactly a year ago, as of recording of this video, I have been playing the Emperor. A lot of people brushed him off as just kind of another meme-ish Blitz hero, but whenever I saw the Warrior Wizard subtext in his hero stuff, I said, hold on a second, I know a couple Warrior Wizards myself, and they go by the names of Rune Blades. That's right. The Emperor is a Rune Blade, at least in my eyes. He can do a lot of fun, tricky stuff, split damage and physical arcane, and really play mind games with your opponent. And that's what I love about the Rune Blade class. So I've kind of bridged that gap, since I can't play the Rune Blade that I want to play in Blitz, Viscerai, and I don't really want to play Briar. So that's just how that goes. So I've decided a year ago that I was going to be playing the Emperor, and I've had a ton of success with him. I wouldn't say he at the time anyway, I wouldn't say he was S tier, top meta, top dog or anything, especially because Kano and Icelander were still bullying the Blitz meta and making sure everyone was kept in check. But now that they are both gone from the Blitz meta, the Emperor has a really strong standing and a really strong chance. My child's playing with Legos. A really strong chance at making a comeback in the Blitz meta. So all that to say, we're going to be taking a look at the list that I've been running for about a year now. I've made like one small tweak recently and since the original inception of this card, but other than that, this is the list I've been running for a year straight now. So I wanted to share that with you and kind of talk through my thoughts and the way that I've picked the cards that go into the deck. All right, so here we are on the Fabrary.com link to my deck, and also this link will be down in the description for y'all all to play and test and tinker around with. I'd love for y'all to, have fun with it, switch some things around. Let me know down in the comment section if you do switch anything around, or if there's been a list that you've been running as the Emperor that's just varying differently, dramatically or slightly. I'd love to know how y'all are approaching the Emperor. Or if you do take this list, let me know how you fare into the matchups. So first off, if you don't already know, the Emperor is a legendary hero starting with 15 life and 4 intellect. 15 life is just to balance the fact that he's a wizard at heart, but he also has royal, draconic, warrior, wizard, all wrapped up into one. So by default, he's a royal hero, so no need for Crown of Dominion. He is also draconic, so he has access to draconic cards like Flamescale Furnace and all the other attack actions and non-attack actions that draconic talent has access to. We have warriors, of course. We have warrior cards we can throw in the deck, and wizard cards. So the wizard is really what we're leaning. Warrior wizard is what we're leaning into, because those two merged together make a pseudo Rune Blade, and so that's what really drew me to him. And his hero ability says you may only have red cards in the deck. So when Kano and Icelander were really running rampant in the format, it really wasn't a good time for him. He really couldn't pitch into AB. We could run AB 10 if we wanted to. Doesn't matter. We just have red cards. So the card economy was not very much on our side, whereas now that they're gone, we don't really care. So we can have all the fun in the world with our red pitch cards, which, as we all know, tend to be the higher power, more valuable, or offer the more value in the game, in the matchup. So other than that fact, he has an action that says pay 3, search your deck for a Command and Conquer, attack with it, and then shuffle. So attack is in bold there because you're not technically playing it. So if for whatever reason your opponent played a card that said you can't play Command and Conquer, this would still work because you're not playing the card, you're just attacking with it. Super cool workaround if in the future they decide to have more mechanics that say, you can't play XYZ card. The Emperor still has a workaround with the Command and Conquer hero ability. To be honest, we're not really using his hero ability all that often. I think in the 100+ games I've done, I think I've maybe done it like 10 times in all of those matchups. It's just not, there's better things we can do with 3 resources. Let's just say that. All right, so now that we got him covered, Let's look at this equipment suite here. We're running Arcanite Skullcap because, like we mentioned, he's got 15 starting life. So right out of the gate, this has that +1 conditional +1 defense. So you're going to get that 2 block off the first time you use it, and then more times than not, you're going to have that the additional block because you're still going to have a little bit less life than your opponent. So Skullcap all the way. No need for Crown of Providence to do card switcheroos. This is all we need. We need a fridge, and this is checking that box so far. Next up, we have Brave Forge Bracers, which is going to be checking a box in our Warrior department. Again, this is just pure utility. We're not using the once per turn action to do next weapon gets +1. None of that shenanigans. We just have the fridge here. Blocks 2 at first, and then blocks 1 again before it's just tapped out and battle worn. So it doesn't break, but it didn't matter if it had temper or not. You could get away with running the new Warrior bracers. I forget what they're called with Dorinthia's face. I don't remember what they're called, but these work just fine. A nice tip of the hat to the original Warrior card, Legendary Arms in Welcome to Wraith. So we run those. Next, we have Flamescale Furnace. Standard stuff here. I mean, you've seen what this thing is capable of if you've ever paid attention to a Dromai or Phi matchup. Having the access to once per turn instant, pay 1, and then gain 1 resource for each red card in your pitch zone. You can only activate this ability if you'd already played a red card that turn. So this is going to come in handy for the big pop-off turn whenever we're trying to kill our opponent during their turn. You can also do some shenanigans to try to fudge like extra damage off of Waning Moon, which is what we run, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But again, also this blocks for 2. You never want this to break, because if it breaks your pop-off turn on your kill turn during your opponent's turn, it's kind of shot. You really need to be able to keep this around. So feel free to block with it for the first initial 2 block to cover up break points or whatever, but then at that point, just leave it alone. Just don't mess with it anymore. Of course, we have Storm Shredder. So here's our wizard equipment that we have access to. We all know what this thing does, right? Like, you pay 1, destroy it, and you can play your next wizard non-attack action card as if it was an instant. So this is really what's going to bring everything together and say, hey, now we can play on your turn. 100%. Some of the things we could have finagled, but this one we have full access to killing you while you're trying to kill us. So we need these. Don't mind the Arcane Barrier 2. We can't do anything with it. It's really not important. Besides, the only thing that's really presenting Arcane are Rune Chants and Rosetta Thorn. We can deal with those. We can fudge our way through those, but don't worry about the Arcane Barrier 2 here. And as I mentioned, we're running Waning Moon, which is going to be a once per turn instant 2 resources, or pay 2 resources, deal 2 arcane to target here. 2 arcane damage to target hero. If it's not your turn, instead deal 3 damage to them. So you can only activate this ability if you have already played a non-attack action card during that turn. So at instant speed, this will do 3 damage. Just on your turn, it does 2 damage. It's a good way to get rid of some cards and kind of filter through your deck if you need to just pay and pitch those red cards, get them out of your hand. Otherwise, this is essential to the pop-off turn because we're trying to bring our opponent down to the 9 life threshold. Anything lower is just a gimme, to be honest. No one's really respecting the Arcane Barrier in this matchup, especially now that Kano and Icelander are gone. They're just not worried about it. So this, during your opponent's turn, is going to help push you over that hump of pushing over 9 damage once we get paired with another fancy card that's in the list. Let's take a look at the list. We're looking at, let me see, yeah. We're looking at we're going to look at our 0 cost 3 arcane attacks in the form of Aether Dart. Again, these are just 0 cost, deal 3 arcane. These 9 out of 10, I'd even say 10 times out of 10, are going to be completely disrespected, and just people are going to take the damage. This is just free chip damage. That's the whole name of the game. Emperor, the chip damage king. He just wants to get you down to that 8-9 life threshold so that he can just kill you during your turn. So a lot of heroes are only running AB1, AB2. So like I said, 9 times out of 10, if it's completely disrespected, it's going to hit. If people try to respect it, it's still going to hit for 1 or 2 at minimum. Very few people are running AB3 in this meta, at least right now, at least not until people start to catch wind that the Emperor is still here to keep everybody in check. So take advantage of this time because these 0 for 3 arcanes are just pure gold, and at best at worst they can block for 3, which is huge utility because some of our other aggro cards really only block for 2. So let's take a look at some of the other 0 cost 3 arcanes. We have Prognosticate. Prognosticate is just another one. We're not worried about surging and opting. It's never really going to do more than 3 arcane. You're just dropping this down off a 1 card hand if need be, just to make sure you're keeping pace with your opponent. So 0 for 3 all day. Really annoying to deal with too. Sap is another 0 for 3. Again, ignore the surge. And then we've got Zap. Zap and Sap. There you go. 0 for 3s. And they block for 3. So you love to have them. Next, we'll look at the 1-for-4s. We have Aether Quickening. Aether Quickening is just a 1-for-4. Again, I'm gonna stop saying ignore the search. Ignore the search from now on. If it says search, don't worry about it. We're not gonna use it. But the 1-for-4 is really fun because you can pay 1 for Aether Quickening at instant speed. Pay 1 into Flamescale Furnace. Now all of a sudden you have 2 resources floating. You can activate Waning Moon, and it's a 2-for-6 all of a sudden because you're gonna be dealing 2 more arcane. So a 2-for-6 on the surface isn't all that great. It's just a reskinned Command and Conquer, but the fact is it's not just regular damage, it's arcane damage. So you're going to leak damage here. You're either going to leak all the damage from Waning Moon or all the damage from Aether Quickening or some of both. This is exactly, like I said, the name of the game, chip damage, just bringing them down, being annoying, having damage that's just annoying to deal with. So let's see, we've got Scalding Rain as our other 1-for-4 arcane, absolutely perfect. No fuss about it, no surging, no nothing. Just deal 4 arcane. Exact same interaction is capable with this Flamescale into Waning Moon for 6 if you need to just kind of get some cards filtered out of your hand and you want to keep up to speed with the damage output that your opponent's pushing. The other one that's still on the list, okay, this was out of the list. I took this out of the list, and through some back and forth with my buddy DM Armada, he convinced me to put this back in. But I took this out initially because this was during the Kano and Icelander days. Too many people were running AB3, and this was just a clean cover-up. Pay 1, deal 3 arcane damage to target hero. If Reverberate deals damage, you may banish a wizard non-attack action card from your hand with cost less than with cost less than or equal to the damage dealt by Reverberate. If you do, you may play it at instant. It's a lot of words there. Basically, all it's saying is if I deal 1 damage to you by playing Reverberate at instant speed, I can play a card from instant that costs 1 or less. So now I think that's going to start happening a lot more. The discussions he and I had is people are just not going to respect AB in this matchup anymore, or at least in Blitz at all. They're just going to be running AB 1 or 2, so this is always going to leak some damage. The tricky thing is just making sure that you have another 0 or 1 cost arcane dealer or wizard non-attack action in hand when you do this. But if you do, then you can pitch into Flamescale and activate Waning Moon, and you're looking at upwards of 10 damage on just a single turn off 2 resources. So not too shabby. For that reason alone, he convinced me to put it back in the list. It's definitely valid. I had this in the list for a long time running, and I just recently put it back in. So I see the validity in it. So now getting into our 2-cost arcane producers is a Voltic Bolt, 2 arcane or 2 pitch, 5 arcane to target hero. This is kind of our backup contingency plan if the Emeritus Scolding doesn't work. The Emeritus Scolding is the golden ticket. I'm going to kill you on your turn. But this one, you can pay 2. And then at instant speed, you can pitch into Flamescale and activate Waning Moon, dealing 8 arcane damage. So if you were to pop Storm Striders, you can easily push 8 damage on your opponent's turn. If they're at like 5-6 and they're just not respecting your arcane by bringing AB in, this is a no-brainer. So we can't just rely solely on Emeritus Scolding. You know how hard it is sometimes when you play a game and you're just like, man, I never saw that card once, and it's been 3 games since I've seen that card. So you need to have a backup plan, and Voltic Bolt is that backup plan. You're going to see either Emeritus Scolding or Voltic Bolt. You're just going to see it. And then also that combo turn that I just described with Reverberate, if you can really line those things together, that's your kind of 3rd tier backup contingency plan if you just don't see or can't get your Emeritus Scolding into Arsenal in time before you can die. So we've got some backup plans, and Voltic Bolt is one of them. Worst case scenario, just mid-game, you could just drop this down and deal 7 damage, 5 from this and then 2 from Waning Moon on your own turn. Tricky to deal with if your opponent is just not running enough arcane barrier. So those are, well, of course, Emeritus Scolding, we discussed this, but for the layman's terms, here we go. It's just cost 2, deal 4 arcane on your turn, but if it's your opponent's turn, you would deal 6 damage to them. Pair this with the instant speed Waning Moon, and you're dealing 9 damage. So that's the golden number, 9 damage. 9 life threshold for your opponent to be at, and then on their turn, you just pop in with an Emeritus Scolding from Arsenal and just go to town. But in the gameplay, we'll show you some of the examples of exactly how this happens and how this plays out and how consistent this happens. So now let's get into the attacks, because like I said, we're split damage, we're arcane and physical damage. We have tons of aggro go-getters here, like Blaze Headlong. It says if you played another red card this turn, Blaze Headlong gains go again. Of course, it's a 0 for 4 go again if you can meet that condition. Something like Nimbleism, play a Nimbleism into Blaze Headlong. You're looking for, at 0 for 7 go again. which is fantastic. Say you paired that into a Scar for Scar, or, you know, Scar for a Scar into Blaze Headlong. You know, so we've got a lot of 0 for 4s with Go Again. I say a lot. We've got these two, Blaze Headlongs, Scar for Scar, and then Ravenous Rabble. Ravenous Rabble is just absolutely beautiful in this list because they're all red cards in your deck. Hey, the law is the law. We can't play anything other than red cards, so therefore we cannot miss. It's 100% success rate on the Ravenous Rabbles. It's always going to be a 0 for 4. Now, these aggro kind of Go Again 0 for 4s are all, you know, 2 blockers. So that's actually going to be why this is more of an aggro list, because you're not blocking as much. The times you do block are going to be with the 0 for 3 arcanes like Zap, Sap, Aether Dart. Those things are okay just a chunk in front of damage. But if you see, I don't know how many times it's happened where I've had Ravenous, Scar, Blaze, and it's just like, we're not blocking here. We're just going to chip you down. You can dump your whole hand or take all this damage. I don't care, because if you take all the damage, I'm going to pull 1 arcane on my next draw, and I'm going to hit you for 4 at instant speed, and you're dead. So the aggro is okay that it blocks for less, because we'd rather hold on to those cards and play them out. So, and then the 1 for 4s, 1 for 4 plus, I guess. The 1 for 4 here is that it's life for a life. So cost 1, hit for 4. If life for a life hits, gain 1 life. Whenever you play this, if you have less life than your opponent, it has Go Again. So another one of those conditional Go Agains, but as long as you have less life. We just start below them 9 times out of 10. So this is usually going to have Go Again, and they have to decide, do I want to cover up this breakpoint with 2 cards or a card and equipment, or do I care about them gaining a life here? So usually you're going to gain the life off of this. They might block 3. That's fine. You're going to gain 1 life, which is huge, which is fantastic. If they don't block it, then hey, that's 4 free damage, and you have Go Again likely. So, and then Nimble Strike, Steven, DM Armada gives me crap for this, but I love this card. It's a 1 for 4. If you manage to get the Nimbleism into your graveyard before you see this card, which it happens for me all the time, it's a 1 for 5 with Go Again. So 1 for 5, then hit a Blaze Headlong, and then maybe drop a Sap or something. You're looking at a lot of damage on a single turn for just 1 resource. So it's valid in my mind, and I've seen it play out time and time again. It just makes sense for this list to be a little bit more aggro-centric. It just works beautifully. Let's see here. So we've got Sigil of Solace. Again, we're just going to get a little bit life gain because we start so low. It is nice to be able to kind of know that we have a little bit of life support in the deck. And it also turns on things like Blaze Headlong. So, you know, if you have one of these Sigils of Solaces in your arsenal or something, and then you draw into a Blaze Headlong, just save those for your turn. That says gain 3 and then hit someone for 4 with Go Again. Beautiful. Defensive wise, we just run red Sync Belows, 2 of them, of course. You know the drill. Just block with it and then swap a card if you need to. So it's as simple as that. The newest card, and like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the newest addition to the list is this Tome of Imperial Flame. It's just impossible not to run this card because it's a 0 cost Draconic action that has Go Again. So we have access to the Draconic class, of course, or talent, because we are a Draconic Emperor, of course. And so it just says draw a card. But if you're royal, you get to draw 2 instead. Silly Dromai has to wear a stinky Crown of Dominion to get that benefit. We just exist and get the draw 2 benefit. So we have to run this card. It's just the law. And then it says you may pitch 2 red cards. If you don't pitch those 2 red cards, you have to banish your entire hand. So we're going to be pitching 2 red cards. This is where we go full aggro mode. You chunk this in Arsenal and just draw up, you know, keep onto your hands, because 9 times out of 10, how many times am I going to say 9 times out of 10? I'm going to stop saying that. More than likely, you're going to be getting a nice mix of physical and arcane damage. So you're going to have resources floating once you pitch this card. All the boxes are going to check for you once you play out Tome of Imperial Flame. And then at worst case, you can just pitch into your Flame Scale, activate Waning Moon, and do all kinds of fun, funky stuff. So that's why it's in the list. It needs no justification. I just thought I'd explain it to you just a little bit. And then in the sideboard here, we have, I don't know, Metacarpus Node for AB1 if you need it. It's also decent if you just know a certain hero is known to really block out all that arcane. You can just push a little extra over the top with its ability by whenever you play a card with an effect that deals arcane damage, you may pay 1. And if you do that, the effect deals that much arcane plus 1. So if something deals 4 and you pay into Metacarpus Nodes, it'll do 5. So sometimes you just need to get over that hump and push your opponent to that like really desperate, I'm gripping on for dear life threshold, at which point you can pop Stormstriders on the next turn and just end the game out. Spellfray Tiara, I don't know. it's an option. It's there. So that's why that's there. I think I went over everything here. Oh, well, Enlightened Strike. Classic. You know, it's basically a 1 for 5, and you get 3 modes to choose from: draw a card, gain 2, a +2 attack, or go again. So, and it blocks for 3. No brainers here. And I'm not going to talk about Command and Conquer because that's just, it is what it is. It's just, it says it here. It says, hey, look, it says Command and Conquer, so we put it in the list. So that's the list. I'm going to cut over to some previously recorded gameplay of myself just playing random people on Talishar from a few days ago. I'll speed it up so you don't have to sit through 3 matches. So we'll be checked back in just a second once those videos are, or once the gameplay is all done. All right, so we get paired into Rhinar first game here, and we're just looking at our hand. We've got, you know, Nimblism, Sink Below, which is Sink Below we want an Arsenal at the end of this turn, and a couple 0 cost 3 Arcane. We quickly notice that they're not, they don't have any Arcane barrier, so we just get the 5 free damage off of the sap, or the sap into instant speed Waning Moon, clear our hand a bit, and then just tuck the Sink in Arsenal. So I think they start off here with just a quick Intimidate. We just easily cover this up with the Life for a Life, and then thankfully we had the Sink Below so that it actually doesn't get that buff, because we've now blocked with 2 cards, and we've just, let's tuck the Zap under to see what we get, and of course just another 0 cost 3 Arcane, which is totally fine. We're going to get that Nimblism back, and we'll use it for some resources. I believe into the Scalding Rain. Yeah, so we'll Scalding Rain and then instant speed off of the Flamescale Furnace. Let that resolve so we get our 2 resources, and bam, there's 6 Arcane, and instantly they're down to 9, which is exactly where we want them to be. And look at that, Emeritus Scolding in hand, and oh my god, they discarded a Blood Rush Bellow and they gave up. So let's get into the next one and see. Again, we see another Blitz hero just not respecting the Arcane that the Emperor can deal with. Though Prism had a pretty good showing in Skirmish so far. Of course, Luminaris do Luminaris things, but you know, instantly we notice, hey, let's just get free damage. Let's make them pop their Wave of Reality to cover up at 1 point of that damage, so they end up taking 4. And we tuck in Arsenal, a Ravenous Rabble. So this, again, this is a pretty aggro-centric list, so we want to hold on to some 0 cost go-agains for damage. We see the Herald of Protection here. Of course, if this hits, they're going to get a Spectral Shield. So we do our best to cover it up using our Skull Cap while we have it activated, because we have just 1 point less of life, and they drop in a Herald of Erudition. The draws were with me on this one just because I drew into a Sink Below. Worked out really well, but if it didn't, we could have easily covered this up with Flamescale, Brave Forge, and then just another card from hand. And now we have our kind of, you know, larger than life Ravenous Rabble. Just always going to be 5 off the top, and we're going to show a red card, of course. It's going to be a Aether Dart. So just knowing that we're going to draw into a 0 cost 3 drop Arcane is just going to be super nice. I think they take this back. I think they ultimately end up taking this back. My plan was, if they full block this or just cover it up this much, I'll just keep the Ravenous Rabble tucked in Arsenal, just leave it there for next turn. But I believe, yeah, they take it back. They undo. I play the Rabble, and they're thinking, and they, you know, there's our Aether Dart. They just no block it, and at that point I'm like, okay, I'll just, no need to hold on to the Rabble if you're showing me that you don't block right now. So we just get the free damage and bring them down to 5 on turn 2. Greedy Prisms, you know. They're probably going to want to deal some Heralds. And a blue Herald coming at us, which is just, seems like their draws were not with them. I decided this doesn't matter. No on hits other than a card going into Soul. But we have a pretty nice fun hand here with a Nimble Strike. We know that Nimblism's in our graveyard, so we're going to get kind of greedy, and we did draw into a Tome. So we'd have liked to have an Arsenal here, but like if we had kept that Ravenous Rabble, it would have been really fun, a really fun turn. And they instant speed a Spectral Shield out, and they end the turn. So of course we start the turn with our Tomes. We've got the Nimble Strike, so we need at least 1 resource, which is great because we're going to have to pitch 2, so we don't discard our whole hand off of Tome's ability. We've got 3 0 cost Arcane dealers, which is easy. You just chunk those into the pitch zone to meet the condition, and then we can start off with a 1 for 5 go again, banishing the Nimblism. we know that they have the Spectral Shield, so, but it's still a breakpoint, even without the Spectral Shield. They have lots of blues. They've been drawing into lots of blues, which is really weird for a Luminaris build. You'd think this many blues would be for an Iris build, and it's an Illuminate also, which is very strange. I guess it's just a blue 3-block. Of course, now we've met the condition to get our Blaze Headlong to have it have go again. And we've got our 1 resource floating. That is critical, especially right now when they have no AB, because whenever we drop this Aether Dart, it's super weird that they're choosing to pitch into Phantasmal Footsteps rather than let the Spectral Shield cover it up, but Prism players know what they're doing. I don't know. We play this Aether Dart, and then there's I consider paying the 1 at instant for the flame scale, but I want to see what they do with their Spectral Shield. So it looks like they pitch at instant to make a second one, and now we use the Waning Moon to push the extra 2 damage in. So it would have been 2 damage regardless, here or at instant, but I just was curious to see what they were going to do with their Spectral Shield. Nothing in Soul, and I can kill them right now. So I could pop Storm Striders here and Voltic Bolt them at instant speed, but I like to play with my food a little bit, and I think I do go ahead and pass just to give them the false sense of hope. But yeah, we end up zapping into pitching into Storm Striders. We can now pitch into Flamescale Furnace and instant speed with our 2 resources, Voltic Bolt, for a total of 8 Arcane, and there's nothing they can do about that, so that's GG's. Emperor games do not go long, that's for sure. Big turn here on turn 1 here into Dash, who also is, she acquired 60 LL points in Skirmish season thus far. My child is screaming in the background, excuse that. And so we've got a Blaze Headlong and a Prognosticate. We just dropped the Prognosticate because we want that Blaze Headlong in Arsenal. It's a very good Arsenal target because exactly at this point we draw into a Nimblism. So we can get a little bit greedy here on this turn if we choose not to block, but I think I can't remember. Let's let the game play out. How about that? Just reminding ourselves that we have a Blaze Headlong. Everything's going to be okay. They do start out with Teklo Pounder at the start of the game, so everything's going to get +2. So this 0 for 4 actually is a 0 for 6. And I do believe, yeah, we're just checking no on hits, no funky business off of 0 to 60, and we just let it happen. We do also want to take a little bit of damage so that we can get full access to the Skull Cap. Just a moment ago, we were tied for 18-18, so here we're not going to be forced to block with anything because they haven't boosted 3 times, but they do require us to show 2 cards. I show them that I have a tome just to say, hey, things are happening on my turn, just so you know. Yeah, so we don't need to block here with anything from hand, but we'll just get some utility out of our Skull Cap since we decided to take a little bit of damage earlier. And they're coming in with a solid 2. We don't care. We've got a pretty nice turn coming up. Get a little greedy here. Of course, we're going to start with the tome. We're going to pitch 2 reds. And now we've got some options here, right? So we kind of want to end up with a Sink Below and Arsenal if we can to cover up any big turns. So we're not going to need the CNC. We can go and get that at any point in the game if we want from his hero ability. And we'll just drop the Voltic Bolt. The Voltic Bolt we could have pitched the Scalding Rain, kept the Voltic Bolt, and then used the 2 resources that we gained from the tome pitch for the Voltic Bolt, but the interaction with the Flamescale Furnace into Waning Moon is ultimately just a little bit more damage. So we'll Nimblism into Blaze Headlong since we held on to that last turn. Yep, and then we drop the Scalding Rain down, and then at instant speed we pitch into the Furnace, regaining 2 more resources and instant speed Waning Moon. So it's a total of 6 Arcane where Voltic Bolt was just 5, so that 1 point of difference can make all the difference. We drew into Emeritus Scolding, which is perfect, and a Voltic Bolt. So our main plan and our backup plan, just checking their Banish Zone to see what they've boosted off so far. They're coming in with a Twin Drive. No on hits here, it just helps them boost twice. But we can clean cover this up with the Sink Below from Arsenal and then the Aether Quickening, which we really don't need. All we're trying to do is make sure that Emeritus Scolding gets in our arsenal. We'd be happy to block with Voltic Bolt and anything else in our equipment suite right now. When they dropped the blues 0 to 60, we knew that max velocity was coming. You don't play out a blue boost card unless you're trying to meet some kind of requirement. So it was at that point I was like, yeah, something's coming. We're not going to block this. So we dropped down to 2 here, but that's not a big deal. So on our turn, we're just going to be dropping a zap to bait out any blues or decide if they want to see if they want to take 3 free damage. They do pitch into it. We tuck our nice cozy Emeritus Golding into the arsenal, and it's at this point they think, uh-oh, I done goofed. So they showed a blue, threw it in a pitch, and now if they have another blue, we should still be fine. Even if they like just try to pass here, we could still end the game because they only have AB3. We'd be dealing 9 damage. 6 and 3 off of Waning Moon, but they decide to pitch 2 into Throttle, and I let the boost resolve. We pitch into Storms using the Rabble, and then instant speed the Emeritus Golding, and then we can instant speed into Flame Scale, and they don't even let the game resolve. That about does it for the video. I really hope you all enjoyed this list, and I'd love to know your thoughts. If you, like I said earlier, if you've been playing the Emperor, you've had different results. Maybe you're building like a Flame Call Awakening, Phoenix Flame combo, pop off with Jubil or whatever. Like, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the ways that you're building the Emperor. But for me, this is just the way to go, especially in my Rune Blade brain. But yeah, I really do hope you all enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future content like this, or you know, whatever I decide to upload whenever I decide to upload it. But be sure to follow me down on Twitter so you can keep up with my daily happenings if you do so, please. So all that to say, I wish you all the best in skirmish season and your next events. Good luck and have fun. I'll catch you in the next one. Adios.